Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. Patrick Van Straten got the job last week that he was interviewing for. Congratulations to Patrick. So he's left Team Football Daily. Yeah, he wore a suit last weekend. But Doogie Critchley has replaced him, aka the posh one. And Chris Hamill is here, as he always is. We're here to answer your questions. The first one comes from Terry Blue, 95. And he says, can signing Edin Dzeko save Chelsea's season? Doogster, coming to you first. What do you think of the move?
Yeah, so just to clarify, I realise we're all looking like Adidas brand ambassadors, but we were actually at the Adidas store this afternoon doing a little
True.
shoot. So keep a lookout for that.
3 stripes.
But as for these signings, I think they're imperative for Chelsea. They've hit a real lap in form. They're banging against the smaller teams, but against the big ones, they're struggling to score. Morata is not used to this workload in the Premier League.
True.
Seems to have been overworked because he doesn't trust Batshuayi. So getting in a second striker really could make the difference in the second half of the season. It's better than Ashley Barnes, it's better than Carroll, it's better than Crouch. It's a proven Premier League performer.
True.
I thought he was class at City actually in limited game time. Got that untalked about second goal in that comeback game against QPR, their title-winning game.
He was a little bit unlucky as well because obviously behind Aguero, and then Negredo came in as well, and he kind of slipped down the pecking order.
And Balotelli was kicking around there.
Yeah,
at that time as well.
I thought he was really good for Man City, but I don't know much about Palmieri. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Chris.
Most people just call him Emerson. Brazilian left back, was very good last season, but got injured towards the end. I think he made around 23 starts. A good all-rounder, a very attack-minded player too. I think he was completing around 3.6 tackles and interceptions last season, as well as 1.2 key passes, which is the same as a lot of midfielders. So very useful in that final third too. And the deal would apparently be £44 million for Dzeko, plus £13.2 million worth of add-ons, which would also see Emerson arrive at Chelsea and act as cover for Marcos Alonso.
So they're paying £57 million for 2 backups?
Effectively, but you'd think if Dzeko secures some Champions League football, obviously that race is hotting up, isn't it, for third and fourth place, then it'd be well worth it. Quality last season.
Tied though in the Champions League.
Well, he played against them, didn't he?
Exactly.
He scored 2 goals against them. But domestically, I think he'd proved very useful. Batshuayi apparently going to Sevilla, used him against Brighton, got an assist. I thought he was very useful in that game. But then bang, back on the bench against Arsenal. Clearly does not trust him. Dzeko, incredible last season, 0.7 goals per 90, I believe. I think it was 36 in all competitions. Really spearheaded that Roma attack along with Salah. But I fear for Roma, should they sell him, because I think after Salah last season it was Perotti with 8 goals.
Yeah.
And they've got no one really to fill that void. Although Monchi's there now, and he came out this week, their sporting director, and says every player has his price. And I think £40 million for a 31-year-old is probably decent business. Although Chelsea have that tendency, well, they're an unwritten rule, don't they, not to offer more than 1 year. A 1 year contract to any player over 30, so they'd have to break that because Dzeko, I think, is actually seeking reassurance of minutes, which, would he get?
I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because I don't want to say he's had a breakdown, Conte, but something's obviously gone on behind the scenes and he is spitting with rage. He was desperate for Andy Carroll. Apparently, behind the scenes, he was the one requesting him, and the board was saying
he's been
no.
on the source, if that's
What
the case.
is going on? And then they went to Crouch. Then they went to Ashley Barnes. We heard Slimani.
They did not go to
well.
Crouch. I have to believe that is a vicious rumour.
Like, what is going on with this transfer policy? We talked about it on Continental Club last week, so I won't go into too much detail. But clearly, Conte has fallen out with the board, and we've seen it over the past decade. Whenever the board, or Abramovich in particular, have a falling out with a Chelsea manager, there is only one winner, and it's always Abramovich. I personally do not see Antonio Conte at the club beyond this summer. So these 2 signings, Edin Dzeko and Palmieri, or Emerson as apparently he's called, I think that they are extremely short-termist. He came out yesterday and said that he doesn't really have much say in the transfers. The board make the decisions. If that's the case,
unpleased with his options on the bench, and his new signing was Barkley, the only one on the bench that he could turn to.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, because if that's the case and he has no say in those signings, why are all of the players that are being signed from Serie A? You look at the last few signings they've made, and the likes of Marcos Alonso, Who else? Zappacosta.
I don't think anyone
well.
from the board would have been keen to sign Zappacosta for 24 million.
It's a bit of an odd one. So Conte must have some say, but then equally, I kind of feel like he said, I want Alexandro, and then the board have gone, we can't get him, and he's gone, okay, second down then.
It makes that decision to sell Diego Costa look all the more farcical, doesn't it? They could really do with an informed Diego Costa right now.
And such a weird summer selling Matic as well. I don't think Bakayoko's been a touch on Matic.
No. I think he's struggled to have the impact I think Conte thought he would. And I don't think he's necessarily the same player that Conte thought he bought. He's actually much more box-to-box, and he's playing quite advanced for Chelsea. And that is completely the opposite to what Matic was offering. Matic was offering a stable pivot that allowed Kante to move about freely. He would just sit there and occupy space. Bakayoko does not do that. So it's kind of changed his system up a little bit. And these two moves, I don't know where they fit in. Obviously, Morata needs a break, so Dzeko potentially starts 50% of the Premier League games. They've got Barcelona, let's not forget, in the round of 16, so that's going to be a hard enough game. They're already out of the League Cup. I just don't see signing these two players for £50+ million and letting Batshuayi go as a smart business option. I think Dzeko is a decent short-term plug, but in the long term, 31-year-old, like you said, breaking policy, a policy that, by the way, has seen the likes of Didier Drogba only sign a one-year deal. Frank Lampard only sign a one-year deal. John Terry only sign a one-year deal. So he better step up to the plate if they're going to break that policy.
But breaking the policy shouldn't be a problem. I don't think a team should be that rigid, particularly when Champions League football is on the line. So it's perhaps not that big a deal. But you're right in that, if he's going at the end of the season, does he care if it's a short-term solution? He's one of the few managers whose job is probably secure in the top, well, not the top 6, because Pep's is pretty secure right now and Jose Mourinho's just signed a new contract. But you wouldn't have thought if he'd have just kind of played on the straight and narrow, he'd have been fine at Chelsea for another season. But he doesn't mind stoking the fire, does he?
Loves it.
He seems to take things very personally. And
such an intense character.
It's almost forcing Abramovich to play his hand, isn't it?
I think his players, you hear rumours that the training is so intense at Chelsea, and I think they've really suffered from being involved in the Champions League this year, that extra workload on his players. He's fallen out with one of the key pillars of last year, David Luiz. I don't think there's enough goals in central midfield either. There's not enough goals throughout the team.
I feel like the falling out of Diego Costa as well in the summer pissed a lot of players off. I think he had a lot of allies in that dressing room, Diego Costa.
Well, he's a big personality.
Exactly, big personality. Then he fell out with David Luiz. That's a second big personality in the dressing room. He's off. And then behind the scenes, he's obviously off the board as well. I just worry for Antonio Conte that he's running out of friends at Chelsea. And I don't think he'd be too arsed because he's going to go in the summer anyway. But it can't be helpful when he looks around the dressing room. Like he said yesterday, he looks around the bench and his only option to take Willian's place is Barkley. And Barkley's been out for 6 months, injured. He doesn't trust Batshuayi.
But by the same token, Jose Mourinho is very aggressive, very spiky towards his players. Doesn't exactly, go looking for loyalty. He doesn't necessarily put his arm around players like a Carlo Ancelotti, and that gets a lot of praise. Luke Shaw rediscovers form, and all of a sudden it was his kind of a spiky man management that gave Luke Shaw the kick up the arse that was necessary. So maybe Conte is trying to have that same effect on his Chelsea players, but he seems to be playing the players, playing the board simultaneously, and it all appears to be getting a little bit much for him.
Yeah, he needs to be careful about tarnishing his reputation as well. I'm not saying that it'd be tarnished from a third place finish and a lack of a trophy, but they were so dominant last year and played a fantastic brand of football, finished with a record points total, most wins I think it was in the Premier League season, and for them to have this second season syndrome where they've got rid of pretty much the entire spine in Matic, David Luiz, looks like Diego Costa as well. They might lose Courtois in the summer. They're then going to have to rebuild an entire spine of a team, which is never easy to do. So I think he needs to be very careful about how he leaves and how these next few months go.
Yeah, but what do you guys at home think of those signings? Are they just short-term replacements, or are they? It's easy for you to say. Or are they long-term ones? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Spit it out. Our next question comes from Reek Wheeler and the Flying Raccoon. We've kind of combined 2 questions into one here. So we've gone for, do you think Marco Silva deserved to be sacked by Watford, and can you see him going to Chelsea if Conte leaves? I think the simple answer is he's not going to end up at Chelsea just yet. But what do you think about the Watford sacking, Hamster?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we have bigged him up on this show
Big
before. I think people got extremely carried away when Watford enjoyed their best start to a top flight season. They occupied Champions League spaces for a little while. Haven't dropped below 10th all season, but on the other hand, have lost 9 of their last 13. Crystal Palace are now only 1 victory behind them. I think Palace have won 6 games and Watford have won 7. So momentum wasn't with them, and I think the form of other teams, the chasing pack, so to say, has perhaps forced the Pozzos' hands. Crystal Palace being one of them. They're quickly getting dragged into a relegation dogfight, aren't they? Had a few big injuries as well. Will Hughes was demonstrating a bit of form at the start of the season. Sure. He got injured. Richarlison's form has dropped off, which was probably predictable. Awful lot of responsibility put on the young man's shoulders. Just arrived from Brazil this season, hadn't he? Andre Gray, I think, is stuck on 4 goals. So it's difficult. I don't have a clear-cut answer for you. But what I am bored with is this narrative that his head was turned after Everton inquired about him. Obviously, Watford rejected a £12 million bid from Everton for Marco Silva. They were desperate for him. Southampton were desperate for him in the summer as well. So I still think he'll have suitors in the Premier League, and I think he'll probably do a fine job at a club like that. But I can actually sympathise with the Pozzos a little bit on this. Their track record in terms of staying in the Premier League, much like Crystal Palace's, has been decent and reliant on this kind of revolving door of managers. They have, we spoke to Guillaume Balaguer about this, Spanish media correspondent. He works for Sky Sports, and he says the Pozzos have a very sort of strict ethos, a very strict sort of discipline that runs throughout the club, and no one person is bigger than the club. And in order for a club to be the sum of its parts and maybe move away from the traditional model of manager being omnipotent, having all the control, he had to go. Maybe he wasn't adhering to certain requirements, but it's so difficult without knowing the inner sort of turmoil that happened at the club. But I do think he'll bounce back. I do rate him, and I think he will not come back with a bang, but maybe be at Southampton if Pellegrino goes. Who knows? We said it on Winners and Losers, didn't we? That's probably not clarified it for you. But Doug, have you got anything?
Well, I think I sort of agree with you. It's a strange decision, but I can understand the logic behind it. The Pozzos are a very trigger-happy family. I think they've had 10 managers there in the last 5 years. Yeah. We've seen unfortunate sackings before. I think Quique Sanchez-Flores finished in 13th and reached a League Cup semi, and he got the sack. But their form it's gone off a cliff since the start of the season. But I do have sympathy for any Watford manager, to be honest, because there's a change of regime all the time. They bring in so many different transfers every summer. I think last year their squad in 25 players had 12 different languages in it. It's very difficult to add cohesion to that. I mean, they find the occasional gem. I think Abdoulaye Doucouré's look very good.
Yes.
Richarlison, Carrillo, Okaka can play a bit.
Pereira
as well. And Ziegler at the right backs look quite useful at points as well. But to find a winning formula out of that mesh of different people that have brought in different languages, different cultures, different experiences, it's a very difficult job. As you say, I think he'll be back in the game soon. He's garnered a really almost unfair reputation, considering, we've got it down here, he won 30% of his games at Watford and 36% at Hull. So his win percentage actually went down, but his reputation is still incredibly high. Manuel Pellegrino's under incredible pressure, and I imagine Marco Silva will be the man through the door there.
Yeah, I think.
What about you, Joe?
I kind of agree with you guys. I've bigged Marco Silva up on this show over and over and over again, but 1 win in 11, not really good enough. And as much as we don't really want to talk about having his head turned, clearly Watford felt that was a big issue, and the players felt that was a big issue. He's going to get a job fairly easily off the back of it. He's still really highly thought of, but that job, the next selection for Marco Silva, is crucial. I would be concerned if he went to a club like AC Milan, because you take the hit of Watford damaging your reputation slightly, but then AC Milan can really crucify a reputation.
I was surprised if he got a job of that magnitude at the moment.
Having resigned and been sacked in 6 months as well.
Yeah, I mean, Gennaro Gattuso isn't the greatest solution to the AC Milan problem, so I'm sure he could probably do a more thorough job than him, but I'd be extremely surprised.
Yeah, not saying he will end up at AC Milan, but I just think that would be the wrong option for him. I think Southampton, I think we've spoken about it before actually, but behind the scenes, Pellegrino is really highly thought after there, and despite the fact they've been in poor form, I think that they have got quite a good structure. They don't tend to sack managers quickly, not too many knee-jerk reactions at Southampton. They like to give them time, they like to bed them in, and they like to bring the youth players through, and I think Pellegrino will probably get a season there. But if I was Marco Silva and I had the options of AC Milan or Southampton, I would definitely go for a club like Southampton, even though AC Milan might pay more, and as unrealistic as it seems, it was sort of, it's like big elevation in terms of club, isn't it? In terms of stature and reputation, but still, their record with managers over recent years, the board's ethos and some of the players' attitudes is disgraceful at the club right now. And I think if he was to go there, he'd end up in Russia within 3 years. It's that sort of move. Whereas if he went to Southampton, he might propel himself on a little bit. Good board,
Siberia,
decent squad.
and a gulag.
It's a bit of an odd one. But where do you guys at home think Marco Silva should end up? And what do you think of his sacking? Obviously, these boys kind of partially agree with it. I kind of agree with it as well. But what are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. The next question comes from 8 Mad Alex, and he says, with Mkhitaryan and Sanchez set to make their debut soon, who do you think will fare better for their new club? Definitely Alexis Sanchez. I think it's got a bit confused in this whole chat about his money and how much he's earning, and that Mkhitaryan's quite a good signing. The level of quality that Alexis Sanchez brings to the table for Manchester United, he fits in so well into that side as well. A front three of Martial, Lukaku and Sanchez is seriously frightening. Martial is in the form of his life. Lukaku offers something completely different to those two. And then Sanchez, if he can re-find that form of a couple of years ago when I think he was the only player to get double figures for assists and goals, he is comfortably one of the top 5 players in the Premier League. And United have got him for nothing. Yes, they're paying big wages, but one hell of a signing. And I know that Man City say they pulled out, and they probably did. He obviously wanted to join Pep Guardiola. But still, I think that if he'd have gone to Man City, you may as well have written it off completely in terms of the next 2-3 years. At least this gives United a chance. I think, don't get me wrong, that City are the best team in England and they're going to comfortably win this season, but people seem to have given up the ghost.
Do you think for next year it could actually make that
Yeah, 100%. I think that people have said, oh, City have won it, everybody else may as well give up over and over. City are just going to walk away with the league for the next 4 or 5 years. Well, what's the point in signing any player if we're going in with that ethos? Let's go in and try and win it at least. Let's go in and try and challenge, and Alexis Sanchez gives us that option.
Yeah, he's one of the few players in the world at the moment that could probably go into any dressing room and change the course of a team's season, albeit to varying degrees.
100%.
What has annoyed me about this move is the sort of narrative that people are peddling, kind of making him out to be a bit of a sneaky foreigner. Oh, he's chosen Manchester United's millions over the pure, football philosophy of Pep Guardiola, and it's become a bit of a Catalan sucking exercise, hasn't it? Really, I think Pep Guardiola, he has an absolute war chest at his disposal every single season, last summer, this summer, and for people to sort of say, well, he's only gone to Manchester United for the money is a little bit, talk is a little bit cheap in that regard. I think he's better off at Manchester United in terms of where he slots into that starting 11 as well.
So do I.
He goes on that right-hand side. He's a big upgrade on Juan Mata, despite the fact I really like Juan Mata. If he went to Manchester City, he might be hampering the development of a Leroy Sané or Raheem Sterling. We don't want to see that happen to Sterling. His game time sort of being limited. You imagine that might not be the case given the impact he's had on the team this season, but he'd certainly face more of an element of rotation. And Sergio Aguero would probably remain at number 9, or Gabriel Jesus when he came back from injury.
And just one more point from United, I think Sanchez also offers another option as a striker. We saw him occasionally play there for Arsenal over the last few seasons, and I think Man United potentially at times lack the backup behind Lukaku. Yes, Rashford can play there occasionally, but it's a lot to ask for a 19-20-year-old to step into the boots of Romelu Lukaku, who you know is going to score 20 goals a season in all competitions. And I think Alexis Sanchez also brings that option. It takes a lot of pressure off Romelu Lukaku's shoulders, and I don't think he particularly copes that well with a lot of pressure. The spotlight is firmly on him in big games. If he doesn't score, Man United tend not to score goals. And I think with Alexis Sanchez arriving, you can no longer say that. And I think that's a massive positive for Romelu Lukaku. So yes, Man City are the best team in England. Yes, they are going to win the league this season. But for the next few seasons, we've got to at least compete. And this is the best option of doing it.
And his mentality will definitely help on that front. You've got a seasoned winner, which 100%. Is not to be underrated. Similar in the same sense that Wayne Rooney was. You know, he can be a little bit petulant like Rooney was. They have certain similarities in their game as well. But what also bores me is when people say his demise is inevitable because he's played a lot of football over recent years. You can't say he never gets injured and then use it as a stick to beat him with.
Everybody seems to have turned into Nostradamus. How are you predicting the future? Yes, he played a lot of games, but
a lot of crystal balls.
Floating about
behind people's laptops.
100%.
I just think, obviously, the Van Persie kind of comparisons have been made, haven't they?
It's a very obvious comparison.
Yeah, in terms of the impact that they can have, but in terms of attitude, application, probably the amount of time he's got left at the top level. I think he's a much better addition. What about you, Diggs?
Well, I think you guys have probably rinsed Sanchez dry, so I thought I'd talk briefly about Mkhitaryan, who I think's done incredibly well on this move. I know there's so many jokes going around about how miserable he's going to be at Arsenal, but he's gone to the 6th best club in England, and honestly, on form, I don't know how he's really done that, because for the first 5-6 games it's flying, and then he's just dropped so considerably. And his face never seemed to really fit at United. He got subbed off in his first game against City. Mourinho didn't trust him for months and months. It was only towards the tail end of last season that he got into the team. Obviously scored in the Europa League final as well. Seemed like this was going to be his year, really establish himself at United. And he started with a bang. But it's just all gone downhill. The last time I saw him play, I think it was against Derby in the FA Cup. And even like his touch and his passing, which you're so used to seeing as just being absolutely on point, was all over the place.
I have concerns as well where he fits in at Arsenal. I know Arsenal fans say, we play these floating wingers and they just come in off the flanks. That's all well and good, but I'm telling you now that Mkhitaryan, one of the biggest problems Man United had, is that every single attack he tries to occupy a central position. And Mesut Ozil is the identical same player.
I think if they get Aubameyang as well, there's literally no width in that side. They're going to have to play Wilshere. They're going to have to play Xhaka, Ozil, Lacazette, Mkhitaryan. It's just getting shoved down a funnel, and Arsenal are at their worst when they're so condensed in there. Yes, they're good with their intricate passing, but it becomes too predictable and easy to defend against. They need a wide player, which is why I'm surprised they didn't go for someone like Lucas Moura instead of Aubameyang. I don't think they really need Aubameyang in the same way that they need a new goalkeeper, a central midfielder, a central defender. I mean, the options are endless with Arsenal.
I mean, Laurent Koscielny now has one leg. I don't know what's happened to the other one.
It's hobbling, isn't
he? He hasn't played. He hasn't consistently played at all this season, really. And I think we all knew it was going to happen. Behind the scenes, he obviously has these serious Achilles injuries where he has to get an injection every single day just to be able to jog out for training.
Ledley King-esque.
Yeah, he is effectively Arsenal's Ledley King at this stage. And yes, he might be one of the best centre-backs in the league on his day, but you can't ask for him to do it every single week. So you have to go out and spend big on a centre-half. Man City are about to go out and whop 70 million euros on Aymeric Laporte. And I know that Arsenal can't necessarily afford that, but when 70 million pounds is about to be spunked on Aubameyang, I debate whether it's better spent in...
Not quite 70, is it? Yeah, I think it's about, 60 odd. I think their last bid was 44.
Yeah, but I think Dortmund wants 70, don't they?
I'm not sure. I'm a little bit more positive about it than you guys. I think Arsenal, it'd be a real shame if Lacazette was forced out wide, as he's been really good in the box this season, but just get those players at the club and solve that situation thereafter. It's...
What, you think quality will just rise to the top?
Yeah, it's what Conte did with Chelsea. I don't think anyone would have said that Victor Moses and Marcos Alonso were the missing pieces of that puzzle.
I'd agree, but do you think, my one argument to that would be is I back Conte tactically to make it work. I don't know whether I back Wenger to make that system work.
Well, people giving him a lot of praise for converting to a 3-4-3 towards the tail end of last season. Then it began to sort of unravel when people were saying, okay, maybe you should go back to the 4-2-3-1.
Changed it last night in the game in the League Cup as well.
Yeah, if you've got these different personnel give you different options. Aubameyang has played out wide at points during his career, although it'd be mental to put a guy who's just scored 40 goals out wide. But you know, maybe he goes to a 4-4-2. Maybe I just think there's more reasons for Arsenal to be positive, to go for these players than there is to sort of speculate about where to play them and use that as a reason to not get them in. I mean, they tried Lamar, didn't they? Who's actually, I think, more comfortable in central midfield than he is on the left wing. He's now going to cost 90 million
Malcolm's
pounds.
Value went soaring up.
Yeah,
as well.
I don't think Malcolm for 50 million. For me,
20.
I would opt for
risk, big
Riyad
risk.
Mahrez. We've discussed that before, so I won't go down that avenue again. But I think plenty of reasons for Gooners fans to be positive. But
both good. Like,
interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
I'll work it out.
I still think Mkhitaryan's a good move. It's just how Wenger fits him in. But I think Sanchez, in all of our opinions, is the better of the signings. I think United have got the better end of the deal.
He's the better player.
But what do you guys at home think? Who do you think got the better deal? Is it Arsenal, potentially getting Aubameyang and Mkhitaryan, or is it Manchester United with Alexis Sanchez? Click the I button up there to vote in the poll. So that's it for Sunday Vibes this week. If you want to be involved next week, hit us up with your questions in the comments right now with the hashtag Sunday Vibes, or why not tweet him in as well. Our handles are on screen right now. Hamster, what's happening on FDFC this weekend?
Well, a non-league vlog may or may not be hitting the channel, dependent on how much work the boys have done as we've filmed this. And you guys can check out Stat Wars actually on Football Daily this week.
Woo!
Just about remembered that. And if you're not subscribed to Euro Football Daily, then come on over. I think there's another top 10 out on Saturday. So 2 top 10s this week for you to enjoy. Dougie, anything else to add to that, my friend? Well done.
Why don't you...
First Sunday Vibes.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Why don't you check out Continental Club while you're here? I believe there's a scout report coming out on 5 players that carried their club over the weekend too. Oof. So have a look at that. Maybe or maybe not a feature of some of the players we've mentioned here. So check it out.
A lot of ifs, buts and maybes.
Yeah, a lot of teasers in there. Thanks so much for watching, guys.
Bye.
Au revoir.